from the Davis County Lions Club Fairgrounds in Owensboro, Kentucky, as Army Armstrong, Gary Lee set to bring you all the action. But with muddy track conditions, there's still a question about how heavy that sled should be.
Gary, right now they've got the sled set around 40,000 pounds. But what you have to remember is you don't want the sled too heavy on the starting line or too light on the finish line. We've got an interesting point we want to bring out. A lot of times people ask us about the names we mentioned, and we keep talking about Janke. Well, Jerry Janke is an engine builder out of San Antonio, Texas. That's where the name Janke comes from. Started in the sport of drag racing. Now we've got him over to truck pulling, and he's got his name, and his motors are some of the biggest iron in this sport, Gary Lee.
And he represents some of the biggest horsepower of all. And right now, we are ready for our first hookup. And this will be Howard Lewis in the high roller, the 1988 national champion. He is driving a Chevrolet. A lot of question marks because of the weather.
Again, the track crew, the sled is not official. The weight box comes up on the sled. You notice the sled has a tendency to move around behind the vehicle. He's picking up a lot of mud and throwing it back. I think they're going to have to reset the sled, Gary. He took it out here too easy.
A full pull for Howard Lewis, the former national champion. Now, when you say the sled is not official, you mean?
There has to be an agreement in this sport. This is unique. The agreement is between the track officials and the drivers themselves. And at the end of a run, you'll get a meeting. At the end of this run, you look for a TNT track official to go over and talk to Tony Osteen. If Osteen bangs it out the back door like Lewis did. Lewis in the Chevrolet, he actually made it look easy. If the Ford can do the same thing, I look for the track crew to reset the sled. Now remember, Mother Nature has got a lot of humidity in the air. These motors are making a whole lot of horsepower tonight.
Well, that's the trade-off, a muddy track, a very wet track, but high humidity.
Out of here. Yeah, he's out, Gary. Made it look easy, didn't he?
Well, the engines we started to say the engines like this, the high humidity, because they can manufacture more horsepower. So now we've had back-to-back full pulls. This is Tony Osteen, the Georgia Rebel, in a 1985 Ford 250, and he is all over this track.
Gary, look for a meeting. Osteen's got tremendous ground speed at a half track. He's going to bang it out the back door. We are going to have a meeting, I bet.
Well, of course, if there's too little weight on that sled and everybody has a full pull, we'd be here all night with the pull-off. And there is your meeting between Jeff Carter, an official with TNT, and the driver, Tony Osteen. Army, you go down and see what you can find out.
Let me find Jerry. Hang on.
Tony Osteen, a little controversy going on here about whether or not the sled is set. That means when they say the sled's set in this sport, that means it's official. Jeff Carter comes back.
You were out. Huh? You were out about that far out the gate. All right.
Okay, what we're getting here, Osteen pulls in the class. We just found out from Jeff Carter that he did make a full pull. Jeff said about 4 to 6 inches. You took the pull. That means the class is officially going right now, right?
Yes, sir, that's right now. I've changed it 2 or 3 times. I don't know what they're going to do. Track seems to be getting a little better every hook.
Right now, everybody's coming after you. We're going to sit and watch with you.
I hope they can't make it.
Tony Osteen, an independent who builds his own chassis and engine. And up next will be Glenn Davis, Mr. Sparkle, with corporate sponsorship out of the state of Florida. And once again, he will need a full pull to continue competition this evening.
What's happened in the sport by virtue of a full pull coming early in the track, and look at all the mud coming off of the tires and the heat coming out of the engine. He's made everybody realize they've got to run twice. You've got to run once to make a full pull and then come back and get him in a pull-off. And Glenn Davis does exactly what he has to do.
A full pull, 1,000 horsepower from 700 cubic inches.
This is one of the best guys in the sport reading the track. Yeah, but Gary, look who's following him to the sled. Another Florida puller. Let's see if he can read this track too.
This is Charlie Lowe in Killer 2. This is the retiree. 1990 blue Ford Ranger, 688 cubic inches. Over 60 years of age, he's retired, and this is how he spends his retirement. West Palm Beach, Florida, home for Charlie Lowe, the Killer 2. Once again, he has to pull it out of here. He needs a full pull to stay in competition.
There's a lot of moisture in the air, and that moisture settling on the top, about top half inch of clay on the track. If you can get through the top clay, you can make a good run. Low
does it. It looks like he does it. Another full pull.
Yep.
Oh, we'll be here till breakfast with all the pull-offs.
And remember, there's a big storm about 10 miles out is the word we're getting from the track crew. So a lot of pressure right now on the Davis County Lions Club members.
Well, they're calling these official, but obviously we need more weight on the sled, but they can't add it now because the class is underway.
Yeah, if they add the weight, they have to go back from ground zero and start the class all over again. The guys that have already run do not want to do that. They've got too much heat in the engine and clutch.
Of course, keep in mind with the bad weather, the ominous clouds that we have right now, we have an excellent crowd on hand, and they have been very patient. And what is this? We're going to add some weight now?
Yeah, Gary, we're just getting word they are going to go back and regroup on this. 2,200 more pounds of weight is going in the skid pen.
Army will step aside as they sort this out and come back with more from Owensboro, Kentucky. Background, we have a storm headed our direction as we come to you from Owensboro, Kentucky. And now our situation, Army, we have reweighted the sled. The competition will start all over again.
Yeah, in this sport, you go back to square one. Now, this is good and this is bad. It's good because the guys have a chance to set their vehicles. But if you've already run, it's bad because everything's hot now.
Well, these folks are very patient, but if we stay here very long, they could get drenched because we have a storm system headed our direction. But right now, the competition will resume, actually start all over again. Gary Varner now the first to pull. Gold Thunder, the 604 cubic inch Chevrolet.
He's out of Midway, Kentucky, built his own engines, and would like to step up and be able to run with these guys. I want you to notice the clay that's coming off the tires now. There's a lot of moisture already in the air. That's making the track real heavy, Gary. And these guys are going to have to tune for it. You notice also the heat coming out behind the front tire. A lot of heat in the engine. We might see some braking before this night's over.
280.31.
Gary, I tell you what, everybody sees the lighting in the background there, bumping up that sled quick tonight.
Well, the next to pull is Robert Gallahan. That's the Gallahan Special, a 1990 Ford F-350. 600 cubic inch Ford engine built by Lee Edwards, producing 1,200 horsepower. I like this paint job. The metal flake, beautiful candy apple red. And he has to take it out of here this evening. It looks like he has some trouble right there. He may have broken the rear axle. He only had front-wheel drive, 286.27. And Army, you have an update for us.
Hey, Gary, we got a unique situation there in Owensboro, Kentucky at the Davis County Fairgrounds. Normally, the 300-foot mark is the end of the track. That is not the case tonight. A big storm is behind us. The weather's coming this way. These guys have come from all over the country. The Lions Club members got together with the TNT Motorsport people and said, hey, pull it as far as you can. That's the guy that's going to win tonight. And these guys are literally loaded for bear in Kentucky.
Well, that'll certainly put a strain on these power plants, and we could see some breakage as we witness the lightning in the background. And coming up next is Dwayne Bakey. That's the STP pulling team, the 1988 Chevy S10. Another Jerry Janke-built 1,400 horsepower engine.
This is Dwayne's first year in the pulling circuit. He's trying to get that all-important time in the seat. He's got the horsepower. He's got the chassis. Let's see if he's got the hot hand in the bluegrass state. He works the middle. Look at the mud coming up, Gary. The moisture's really settling in the track. Let's look at the 300-foot mark. He goes past it.
That would be a full pull normally, but tonight, 304.73, so he has to take it as far as he possibly can. That will give Dwayne the lead here in Owensboro, Kentucky. Let's watch again. 304.73.
I want you to realize on a 300-foot track, that's the way you set your gearing. And it's like a drag car. You set it for a maximum at the 300-foot mark. He went 304. In order to win it, you got to really lean on your motor tonight in Owensboro.
Coming up next, the 1988 champion Howard Lewis in high roller. Now, keep in mind, he had a full pull earlier that was nullified when they added the weight to the sled. So this is very taxing for this power plant to make this second run.
Well, the reason it's so taxing is because of the heat factor. Not only in the engine, but in the clutch assembly. A lot of heat there. He's got to have a lot of ground speed. He does. He's got the ground speed. I think he's going into the lead.
Look at that. 309 feet, 309.13, and that puts him on top of the standings, but no real change of expression in the cockpit.
Lewis is an old pro. He knows if he can do it, somebody else can too. 309. Oh, look who's coming out now.
Here's a guy that can do it.
Yeah.
Donnie Sanders, the Tennessean. Another Jerry Janke-built engine. Donnie, though, built his own chassis, a 1989 Chevy.
The 3 red holes at the top of the engine are the holes in the injector. When they turn black, you're into horsepower. They were black a foot off the start line. He works the left side of the track. Finally go on the other side of a 309. Gary Lee, does he do it?
No, he won't do it this evening. Tonight, only 281.82. So But once again, because of weather conditions, because of the pending storm we have moving in, they pull as far as they possibly can. If that means out of the county, it may take that to win this evening.
We're talking about these drivers coming from all over the country. This young man came 13 miles. Terry Turner out of Lewisport, Kentucky. And everybody in the grandstand that went to Davis County High School is pulling for this kid. He's local.
Well, this certainly is a local racing program.
Yeah, Gary, his engine program came out of the Automotive Machine and Performance people in Owensboro, Kentucky. They'll be happy with anything over 250 feet. Yep, they're going to be happy, Gary.
And he stops the sled at 275.25, or should I say the sled stops him at 275. And from the youngest to the eldest, Charlie Lowe, the Killer 2 out of West Palm Beach, Florida. He is the retiree. We'll just say he's 60-plus years of age in the 1994 Ranger.
Keep an eye on Charlie. Listen to the engine. He does not hesitate. He leaves the line on full boogaloo. Let's see what's going to happen. The moisture's coming into the track. You can't see it, but I can feel the moisture around us, and the track seems to be going away.
Well, of course, he would need to pull it past what normally would be a full pull, 297.90. Normally a good run, but with the present conditions, not so this evening. He has to go over 309, and I think we have some rain right now as we see some of the fans seeking shelter.
Yeah, we're starting to pick up some sprinkles, and immediately notice all the activity starting around the sled. All the drivers are trying to get there as quick as they can.
Well, there is Jim Lyons in stitches, the 89 GMC and Engler chassis with an engine that he built himself, 604 cubic inches and 700 horsepower.
Yeah, Lyons has his own research and development program for his sponsors, and he runs them on the lean edge all the time. He rolls about 2 feet out and full throttle. 309's the lead distance. He goes to the other side of 3, but not going to bump the 09, Gary.
No, at 301, that would normally be a full pull with conditions tonight, though not good enough for Jim Lyons at 301 even. This is stitches, the 1989 GMC as we look again.
Gary, on the replay, you can see where the problems developed right on the starting line. About 20 feet out, he was smooth sailing, but the first 20 feet were the kiss of death. The track might be getting a little bit slippery up there, Gary.
Well, Manuel Moreno, our next puller, is at the line, but walk over and see what information you can get from Jim Lyons.
Jim, you and the Stitches crew have one thing in common. You always go on full kill. You're showing no mercy at all. You were going for the throat tonight on this one, weren't you?
Well, we was, but we don't have a big enough motor to run these boys, so we're going to have to adjust our engine size and get up there with them. That's the only thing that's wrong. The motors is too small. We're 100 cubic inches down from all the rest of the guys.
A lot of question marks now pertaining to the weather and a very heavy racetrack as we take a look at the Yellow Rose of Texas, Manuel Moreno and his 1990 GMC.
You know, he's a past national champion in the sport. He's out of Seguin, Texas, from the construction company. Keeps the truck on tour and flies to and from the events chasing the national championship. Moreno working towards the left.
He will come up very, very short.
That left side of the track, Gary Lee, I think has gone the way of the Buffalo. It's not the place to be tonight.
Well, less than 280 feet for his pull. That will do it for him. And look at the folks starting to head for cover as the rain starts to come down a little harder here. As we take a look at the standings now, the high roller of Howard Lewis leading at 309.13. Then Dwayne Bakey and the SDP pulling team, and Jim Lyons third in stitches. We'll come back and fight with Mother Nature in Owensboro, Kentucky. Kentucky at the Davis County Lions Club Fairgrounds in Owensboro. The rain continues to fall. George Ritter, though, hooks up. He'll be our next puller in Ritter's Critter. And Army, I don't know how long we can continue.
Well, Gary, what you have to remember now is the rain is falling, but it's falling on a packed track. These vehicles have cleated tires. The moisture will set on top of the track. The question is, do you have a tire with enough cleat to get down underneath the mud?
Well, my question is, will the fans stay and watch this?
Oh, yeah, we're all having fun. This is what it's all about. See, Ritter's making a good shot, just picking up a lot of mud. Now we're to the point where moisture can actually help you.
Well, it didn't help him, 243.67, and look at the moisture on the windshield as he pulls off the helmet. So that will be the end of the night for George Ritter in Ritter's Critter. He'll put that back on the trailer and take her home. Roger Crawford up next out of Wayne, Ohio. This is the Bandit. An 88 Ford 150 with a lift body, an Arias Hemi engine.
If you look on the screen, you can see dark spots in front of where he's running. That's where the track is packed hardest. Again, the moisture, if you get the sled on top of the moisture, it's almost like running on grease. Crawford knows it, but it's not going to work for him. You watch for this sled to change 180 degrees. It's going to get better for somebody before the night's over. I don't know who the somebody is. Somebody's got a break coming their way.
Well, all the competitors very eager to get this evening over with, as now we have Robert Smith hook up. You saw his mascot, the big stuffed teddy bear in the passenger side of that cab. The Three Bears Racing Team, the 1982 Chevrolet.
A lot of clutch dust comes out of Smith's vehicle. Again, I want you to notice the dark spots in front of it. He's running where other people have run tonight. Meanwhile, the rest of the track is getting real muddy or gooey.
Not nearly good enough for Robert Smith at 266.58. So his evening concludes in the rain here in Owensboro. The Three Bears pulling team with the big teddy bear mascot in the cab with him.
Gary, we're watching a replay come up on the screen. I want you to notice he stays on the left side of the track. Now, the last three trucks have gone to the left. And what that tells me, Gary Lee, is that left side of the track has gone away. We're in a replay status right now. They're backing the sled up to the starting line. Where are they going with the sled for the next puller?
Well, the next puller is Glenn Davis, as we can see how hard it is raining. Now, Glenn Davis was out earlier, had a full pull before they added the additional weight. So you talked about this man being able to read a track as well as anybody. Let's see if he knows something the others didn't.
Okay. Notice where the sled is right now. They backed it up to the right side of the track. Gary, he's going where no man has gone before. This kid is almost a genius at reading the track. By doing this, what he is speculating on is, I told you about all the goo, he wants to get the sled going in the grease. It'll be easy to pull. 309, if he can get 20 feet.
Oh, he blocked right there.
Yeah, but if he, watch this. You're going to see something great here.
He balked, though, got back in the throttle and got the horsepower up. And look at this.
We're on the end of the track. He's coming at us. 300 feet, 310, 320. Look at this.
He's got it. Look at that.
The kid.
330 feet.
You talk about doing your homework. It's paying dividends for this kid out of South Florida, Gary.
330.33. Let's look again. Now, watch him bog down just momentarily right there.
Well, once he broke traction, so to speak, once he got the sled moving, developed some momentum in the sled, then the sled got up on the slick stuff, the grease, if you will, and then it took very little horsepower to pull it.
So the rain has helped him.
Exactly.
So as some drivers say, I'd rather be lucky than good, and Glenn Davis was lucky this evening. He pulls in a heavy downpour, 330 feet. Army, you're down there in the rain to talk to Glenn.
It's hard to believe you can lay down such a run like that, but just as slippery as the track is, it's also as slippery for the sled you're pulling, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. When the ground gets wet like this, it does make worse traction for your tires, but it also makes the pan slide a little better. But I had a really good hook, and it come down, and looks like I'm ending up pretty good.
Well, as the officials take a look at the very wet conditions, we understand now the event has been called official. Mother Nature shortens the pull here in Owensboro, Kentucky. The final results showing Glenn Davis at 330 plus in Mr. Sparkle. Then it's Howard Lewis in the high roller and Dwayne Bakey in the STP pulling team. And two drivers were left at the altar because of the weather. No hook due to rain. Tony Osteen, who had the full pull earlier in the Georgia Rebel, and Dave Willoughby in the 1940 Ford. That wraps it up from Owensboro, Kentucky. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news about an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.